Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our final event in our Rising Up for Human Dignity, Rising Up Sudan series. This is our fifth and last event, and we're so excited to have a really fascinating group of people here to be on our panel today, using Khartoum Offside by Maya Zein as the starting point for the conversation about women and sport and Sudan. So really looking forward to that. And we're glad that all of you are joining us. I'd like to start with a technology acknowledgement. This is something that we have started to do with this series. It's inspired by land acknowledgements of First Nations people in the US territories, and also by our work on conflict minerals and our recent event that featured the film Summa from the DRC. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the Rising Up for Human Dignity film and discussion series has become a completely online event. With that in mind, we would like to acknowledge that our organizers, performers, panelists, and audience members are all able to participate in this programming by using devices that contain in their essential elements tin, tungsten, tantalum, and gold, also known as conflict minerals. Fueled by corporate greed, consumer demand, government policies, and inaction by the international community, the extraction from the earth and sale of conflict minerals has motivated and perpetuated armed conflict and contributed to societal instability, rape, and other forms of extreme violence, particularly in the Democratic Republic of Congo. We are grateful for this means of connection and communication that rely on these precious resources and affirm our commitment to use them to advocate for peace, security, and a restoration of the communities of their origin. You can find out more about conflict minerals and our work at www.neveragaincoalition.org/conflict minerals. So I'd like to introduce our panelists for today. In this conversation, we have Raga Gibreel joining us from the UK. She is the founder and director of Green Kordofan, and she's a graduate of Sudan University for Science and Technology at the University of Reading. Her work as a reporter for the Citizen newspaper in South Sudan helped inform her knowledge of the plight of the region's people and her passion to make a difference. She now works tirelessly to further Green Kordofan's aims and achievements. And Green Kordofan, so you can know a little bit more about that, is a charitable organization that champions sport and personal development for girls and boys aged 6 to 18. They work with thousands of people who've been forced to flee the civil war in Sudan and are now living in refugee camps in South Sudan. So we're really looking forward to everything that Raga will have to bring us about the situation there and her work in South Sudan with the youth. Maya Zein is our second panelist, and she grew up in Houston, Texas, where she was introduced to competitive junior tennis at the Zine Garrison Tennis Academy together with her 3 sisters. And she went on to play collegiate tennis at the University of Texas at Austin, one of the top women's tennis programs in the US. After graduating with a bachelor's degree in psychology in 2012, she spent 3 years teaching tennis at a local country club and was an assistant tennis coach at the Kincaid School in Houston. In 2015, Maya pivoted and began her career in finance as an investment banker at the Oil and Gas Investment Banking Division of Scotiabank, which is a Canadian bank in Houston. Maya is currently on sabbatical in Toronto, Canada, preparing for the CFA Level 1 exam in December, and continues to pursue a career in finance. She's an active member of SAPA and has participated as a panelist in previous SAPA events. She also continues to enjoy playing tennis and traveling. And I also want to mention that SAPA is one of our co-sponsors for this event and has been very supportive in arranging and promoting it. So we are super grateful for that. And finally, I'll introduce our moderator, who is Suleiman Adam. He is from Darfur, where he spent his childhood before living in a refugee camp in eastern Chad with his 11 siblings for his teens. He settled in Kansas City 5 years ago. He graduated from Cloud County Community College in the fall and now is attending Iowa State University. He hopes to be a lawyer and work at the UN. He was a goalkeeper for the Darfur United men's team and is now their cultural ambassador. Darfur United has both men's and women's teams representing Darfur. iACT co-created the team with refugees from the Sudan-Chad border, and iACT has also co-created the Refugees United Soccer Academy, a place for refugee girls and boys aged 6 to 18 to learn about teamwork, leadership, and peace building, all while improving their soccer skills. So Suli, I will turn it over to you. So looking forward to this conversation. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you, Anna, and thank you everybody for watching. And it's very exciting to be with you all here. And yeah, it's so great that, and it's very nice to see like all the contribution you, Raja and Maya, you all doing for helping the communities, whether here in the U.S. or back in our country, Sudan. And yeah, I like as Ruth said. I spent most of my youth or on my childhood in refugee camp, and I know the situation there is like very difficult, especially like when you are young and you grow up in some place that like there's no hope, no dream, and especially like also I have sisters actually. I have 11 siblings, 6 of them are girls, and I know that like especially when it comes to sport or entertainments for the girls, it's kind of like almost zero, and it's very frustrating, and that's not the situation that everybody hopes for their children to grow up. But yeah, and it's like really amazing how Raja is helping out there in Nuba Mountain and South Sudan with all the support that you are getting. And also do not forget about Maya for like all your helping like with the tennis, clubs that you're helping on. And my little sister also was playing tennis, and she loved it so much, and it's so I would like to like ask you about like how, like when did you start like with like sport, like when you knew when you were introduced to the sport, what were your like hopes and dreams, like what did you see from the sport and beyond the sport?
Yeah, so I started playing tennis, or my parents introduced me to tennis. I was 8. And really it was just an after school activity to keep us busy. And I did it with my sisters. And so it was just something fun that we could do together. And then, after a few years of continuing to play, we were encouraged by our coaches to, pursue it competitively and to take it seriously, and just so happened to be lucky enough to be good at it. So I would say it didn't take long. After we all started getting serious about it, about maybe like 2 years after we started, that we started traveling for tournaments all around Texas and the United States, and then had collegiate and then professional aspirations after that. So I definitely knew I wanted to play in college, which I ended up doing, and that was a very fantastic experience for me and opened up a lot of doors. Even professionally. I thought I wanted to play professionally as well, spend some time on the WTA circuit in the US, but I got injured, so that didn't happen. But in hindsight, I think everything worked out as it was supposed to.
Wow, that sounds so amazing. And yeah, this injuries comes with it was like almost any sport.
Yeah, you can't avoid
it. With the injury right now, I was hoping to run at the Iowa State, but with my injury, I'm gonna sit back for a while. But it's really amazing to hear all this from you. And Raja, also like can you tell us a little bit about like how did you introduce to the sport, and what your hopes and what you have like known from sport so far?
I have a different introduction to the world of sport. I personally don't actually call myself as a sport woman, but my father was an athlete, and he played football and this and that, and he was a fantastic gymnastic as well. Well, when I was a child, I was born with what is kind of, I think, known here as knock knees, and it was a problem. And I think that I have when I was a kid, I have no kind of memories of me visiting the doctors or what the doctors were saying about it. But I was told that the doctor recommended a surgery at some point. And because of my family kind of circumstances at that time, we were living at the what's so known as the Black Belt at the outskirts of the capital of Sudan. And we haven't got the finance, and there wasn't any expertise in the country. And the only way is for us at that time, if we got the money, is to travel to Egypt to have the operation get done. But that never happens. I think the doctor said something to my dad that obesity could actually make the situation worse. And I recommended that I keep exercising. So, you know, in Sudan, kind of sport for women wasn't kind of popular, but my dad actually helped me with kind of doing skipping, few exercises at home, and as well long walks, which is I still love. You know, we used to kind of walk from Umbada to the River Nile, crossing the bridge, and that's at least kind of once a week. And it was something that for us as a family was kind of something we do together. And it's a journey going up to the Nile, having fresh air, enjoying ice cream by the River Nile and coming back. Wasn't easy, but that was a way for me to keep fit and to kind of, with the hope that as I grow, the symptoms will disappear. You know, I still sometimes kind of have some issues, which is some people kind of spot me living, but it's not like causing me a lot of problems. But yeah, so that is sport for me in personal capacity. But what I saw in a sport is the value of it in bringing people together, bringing community together. And then there is others kind of values, you know, which is coming with the sport. You know, you need to be disciplined. You need to have not just kind of physical character, but other kind of quality to help you. And I think for us in Sudan, we all kind of in need to have those sporty quality to help us actually kind of bypass our kind of difficulties at this moment. So that's what I saw in sports so far, and what encouraged me to kind of take it or market it or use it to help my people to overcome their problems at the moment.
What an amazing story, and like what an amazing dad. That's like absolutely fantastic. Yeah. Like what you guys both like mentioned is like about sport and the community, and like I know Raja, you're still like helping all those like people back home, and Maya also you said that you helped in like teaching tennis. Like, what did you see? Like, what have you seen from the kids, or like from the people that you've been like associated with, and trying to help them, like trying to like get them into the world of sport, and like what have you learned from them, and what have you like noticed from them?
Yeah. So the academy that I first learned to play tennis from was actually a free kind of academy for underprivileged kids that lived in the city of Houston. And it was started by a Black American professional tennis player named Zine Garrison. And her goal was to bring sports to underserved communities. So that's where I learned to play tennis. So there were people in our group that were learning tennis with us from all different walks of life, who were from really poor communities, some who were more middle class. And really, I think it was an opportunity for us to meet people from different backgrounds. And it was an opportunity for, no matter where you came from or what your home situation was, you get to come and play a sport and kind of leave your worries behind. And just enjoy learning something new and, you know, being physical. So that was where I started playing tennis. And so I think that getting that experience, I also wanted to recreate and participate in giving that experience to other kids. So when I would teach tennis, you know, I would bring tennis rackets and tennis balls. You don't need any, you know, a ton of money. you just need time and the desire to play. And I think that sports, giving those opportunities to kids at any level socioeconomically, just gives them an opportunity to see something different, and to see themselves in a different way, to find their own strength and to find their own power as people, as people. Yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic. Yeah, like before we go to Raja, I want to like ask you like on top of that question. Like I know, like for example, here in Kansas City, we have when we came here like 5 years ago, my sister started like getting into the soccer because she has met a lady that like she's from Sudan, and she played soccer like a few years before even we came here, and then she was like very inspired by her, you know, like being involved in school in sport and like doing good in school and stuff. Like, have you like been like doing this kind of stuff, like some Sudanese girl in the community seeing you and say like, I want to be like you, or you know, like something like that?
Yes. So when we travel for the SAPRA conferences, you know, all of my sisters played tennis as well, and they also played tennis in college as well. So you know, we meet lots of kids at the SAPRA conferences, and you know, tell them our background, and they're all really excited to play tennis and to see somebody who looks like them, who's, you know, achieved something that they didn't consider for themselves. It's been really fun to, you know, meet kids who picked up tennis or picked up a different sport because they talked to us and they met us and saw themselves doing something that they chose to do something that they hadn't seen for themselves before they met us. So those have been really fun experiences for specifically Sudanese girls and boys that we've met. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Raga, I know like you have, as I said, like you've been like, I have known a lot about you like recently, but like I'm very moved by all the work that you have been doing. What's the like the very exciting and like what's the like really the things that you have learned from those youth and children or like adults that you have been like helping them out to escape the, you know, all the violence and all the stuff that's happening around them?
Well, I thank you for asking that question. I will say it was the two ways learning. You know, I have actually learned so much from those children, as much as I have given to them. I mean, it's sport, we can look at it as kind of pleasure, to give people pleasure. They have sometimes to have some fun. But at the same time, I kind of, while I'm doing it, I learned it was actually a refuge for them. It's kind of rehabilitation. It helped them release their anxiety. And at the same time, it helps them build community. I mean, the kind of just stopping football because of coronavirus has taught me so much things. And when the children come to us to kind of say, is there any way that we could actually still play football and keep safe? Could we do coronavirus football? And I thought that is such a talented question. I've never thought about coronavirus football. I didn't know how that could be. But what I actually learned from that question from the children is it means so much to them. You know, there are people who are actually left home with nothing. They lost not just property, they lost their loved one. They lost the protection that they had. They lost their community. That's the thing that they kind of, like most of us, take it for granted. That's, we wake up in the morning and we have this and we have that. So they lost everything. And you know, this is kind of like, it's not a replacement. It cannot never replace the parent they have lost or the family members or everything. But it has given them something new, something that they look up for. And you know, it's I kind of like, if there is anything that I could actually look back in my life and I kind of feel so much proud of, is to be able to give such an opportunity to this many people. The first time when I started my project, it was the idea was actually, because I haven't got the capacity, I wanted to do it with small numbers, which is, I said, 45 children. But I was surprised they became 100, though the kind of the money, the facility, the equipment wasn't sufficient for 100, but they were happy to share, to have it. And that is something I learned from the community. That's just, you know, they can actually overcome a lot of things, and they can actually get organized if they have been given the opportunities. And so if we can give something like that through sport, why not? You know?
Wow. Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. And it's the same way now, like as I said, I grew up, like the only thing I remember from my past is like my time that I spent in the refugee camp, like we were back in Yala in displacement camp, Utash, if you have heard about it. And also I lived in Eastern Chad in a refugee camp. But like, you know, like the only thing that, like the only fun thing that I would do, and only the place I go, and I don't, I'm not being worried about like what I'm gonna eat, what I'm gonna wear, you know, and like what's my situation like. It's like being in a sport, like, and it's, you know, like sometimes like we don't have even soccer ball, but you know, we like collect, you know, the socks and put like stuff, a lot of stuff inside and make it like soccer ball, and we just kick that soccer ball, and it's like the absolute happiness from it. And like I absolutely like understand what you guys all saying. And have you guys watched the movie, right? The film? And like if so, like what's your what have you learned from it, and what's your reaction to the film?
I have seen the film. I mean, the first things is, you know, when I actually blinded twice. There is the thing that's, you know, it hit you hard, because I still feel for the country that I left. And it wasn't, when I left it, it wasn't great. But yes, I felt sorry to see what I saw. I prefer to see a country where people are rational and they can treat each other in a humane way. There is kind of something, a moment where one of the football women was about to go and to kind of deal with something about her immigration situation, and she needed to do an HIV test, and she was so worried, so concerned. If that result was positive, she might not get through. That is not the country we actually dream of, you know. It is the point, but at the same kind of really, really horrifying moment, but at the same time, there is kind of things which is, it's not shocking, you know, that the country was and is still have the same issues, that everyone has to conform to one religious, one political party, one dress code, you know, generic dress code, and, you know, identical attitude, beliefs, and code of conduct. And if you are not actually conforming with all these things, you're not going to be accepted. And you can see that when you kind of come across the comment by the little girls, as innocent as she is, that comments is actually make you kind of, it's actually from the roots up. This thing's kind of like being, you know, but there is a lot of kind of as well happy moments you can see on that films. There is an alliances for those women. There is the men who are actually kind of coaching them, standing by them. There is the young man who is actually playing football with them, and it's just great to see that they have actually managed to raise all these issues actually through that film. You've done very well. Congratulations.
I'll say I also watched the film. I thought it was fantastic. It was beautifully shot. I was, like Raja, like really disappointed that, you know, this is still, you know, where we are, and they haven't been given the opportunity to, you know, grow their love of the sport. But I think I was really moved by just their persistence, the refusal to take no for an answer. They are going to find a way to get a women's national team in Sudan. And I actually had to Google this. I didn't know that Sudan is only one of 2 countries in the entire continent that doesn't have a women's national team, which is absurd. But I just was really moved by everybody's commitment, their refusal to give up, their love of the sport. I feel all the same things about the sport that I love as well. So I could totally see myself in all of the women. They're providing opportunities and showing a different path to for girls in Sudan, that you don't have to conform to what society expects of you. You can, you know, blaze your own trail and find your own path. And there are lots of girls who's in Sudan and outside of Sudan whose brothers and dads played soccer, you know, that they grew up around the sport, and they just never felt like it was something that for them or they could do. So I think it's really beautiful that they get to watch a movie and look up to women in their communities that are not giving up and not taking no for an answer. And I think at the very end of the movie, she has a conversation with the younger girls on the team that says, listen, we can't be the only ones that are fighting for this. You guys have to step up and use your voices to, you know, to continue to fight. It can't just be us. And I think that what they're teaching, not only to the girls, but to everyone who watches this movie, is that, you know, you don't have to be quiet and subservient. You can use your voice to fight for the things that you care about and you love. And I thought, I was, you know, blown away by the movie. I thought it was so great.
Yeah, thank you all. And yes, absolutely, like it was really, you know, like this moment of like you feel sorry, and this moment of, you know, hope, you know, and like just like the little girl said, like Raga also said, and like from what she said, I have like seen the good part of it and also the bad part of it. And as she's young and she's innocent, she doesn't know any about all this stuff. But she's just like, you know, she's growing up in a situation and society that, you know, they believe in things that, you know, like all the government in Sudan, like the past, you know, like 30 plus years, they've been, you know, like building up, which is like women shouldn't be playing sport, or, you know, like if you, it doesn't matter what you believe in, like you have to wear certain type of dress, and like you have to look at certain type of, you know, like looks, and that's like that's something that, you know, like it's not really helping. And also the other thing is like, you know, when you see people in Sudan, like they kind of like, they don't want women to participate in sports, and like, come on guys, it's 2020. You know, like it's like we've been far away for now, like to understand, and like, you know, it's sport, it shouldn't be only for men, you know. You know, like why should we, like, you know, keep our women off sport when the world, the whole continent is like everybody's playing sport, being active and stuff, and like what's different from like for us. And that's what I think, because of like the things that we've been like the regime that building up the country in some type of, you know, understanding that keeps us like keep people's mind, you know, like limit, like, hey, you got to think about this and not out there, you know. And we all hope for a better change. I think and like now a lot of stuff changing in Sudan, and like Raja said, like it's not one person's job to, you know, work on this. It's like everybody's you know, like hand to hand, and together we can like make things work, and together we can build a better environment for our girls in Sudan for the future, you know. And like the past will not gonna limit what's the future of Sudan gonna look ahead of us. And that's also the other question I was going to ask was yeah, like what do you like? What's your vision for Sudan, like, or for Sudanese like women in sport in Sudan? I know for now, like the whole society, they don't believe women should play sport and something like that. So what do you guys like think, and what do you guys believe in, and how do you guys think like Sudanese should adapt this kind of stuff by the change happening right now, and not to live in the past and in things that we've been living in the past?
I mean, I know how much sports changed my life, and how much of my personality traits come from, you know, the confidence I gain in sports. I absolutely want every girl to have that opportunity, whether it be soccer or any other sport, to be able to see themselves, you know, succeeding in sports. You know, the government and the entire country is moving towards a more progressive, you know, era, and hopefully the conversation of, you know, it's sinful or it's haram to, you know, for girls to, you know, play sports kind of gets left behind. There's been an evolution of thought, and more, I mean, there were so many women involved in the revolution efforts that I think that, you know, women can do anything. And I think that they've proved that with the revolution efforts, and hopefully they'll continue to prove that by, you know, giving girls the opportunity to, you know, play the sports that they love. Because they're probably already doing it at home, or if not, they're kicking around balls, or, you know, not in any organized way, but give them an opportunity to, you know, actually play a sport that, you know, could really benefit their lives. Yeah.
That's nice.
Well, I think we have a great opportunity through sport to revolutionize the way that the relationship between men and women in Sudan in general. It's not just about sport, and we need to work on the way that sport is just being seen as a monopoly areas for men. We need to help our community to see the other positive side of sport is for health, for safety, for bringing you know, community together, for the values that's kind of like you know, that's the sport that can give you to help build a team, build each other, build a community. We need to kind of emphasize those things, emphasize those values, and work with our young people to help them, because they are the futures of our country. And you know, if we wanted to have a healthy people, we wanted to have a productive people, and if we wanted to move our countries from the kind of the bitter cycles of conflict, we need to see a way that to help those people learn to understand each other. Sport could actually help that. You cannot play a fantastic football unless you kind of learn to play as a team. You cannot play a great football unless you can actually be a good player who can actually build the other player. You know, there is so much skills. There is so much, you know, it comes with those sport, and we do need those skills. We need them. We need them to be reflected in our day-to-day activities. And I kind of like really like to emphasize those things. That's the thing that we need to kind of draw the attention of those people who actually create policies for the country to see, you know, it's not all about pleasure, which I don't really see anything wrong about pleasure. Why don't women have some pleasure? What's wrong with that? You know, if it can make you happy, why not? You know, do we need depressed people? We need happy people. We need to create more happy people. And if sport can make you happy, let's do it. And it's the way that we look at the sport that needs to be changed. I mean, there is a very kind of fantastic image which is played on the film, which show the monopoly on even at kind of leadership level. Like who is who is voted, who is making those decisions. We need to change that, because unless we have actually managed to change those things, we will see the same of the same every now and then. And those are the things that we need to kind of push to kind of get them changed, to see a different Sudan or a different South Sudan someday.
Yes, we always hope for a better, and of course we should all like get together and unite and work for the best of like, you know, making policy that will be accepting everybody. It doesn't matter like what's your religion, what's, you know, your beliefs, and what sport you want to play, or what, like, you know, this stuff. Yeah, and I think there's a good question that's asking where's the hope in the film, and what was the intent in making the film, and also another question was I'm not sure if you guys can read the question. Yes, what was the intent in making the film, and those women are strong women seen in prison due to their country's laws and don't have hope. So it's like what was the hope that you have learned from the film, and what the things that disappoint you from the picture sport from the film? I think that's the question that's being asked.
I think that I mean, I can't speak to, you know, the filmmaker's intent for the film, but, you know, for me, I think it was, you know, giving the diaspora, the Sudanese diaspora around the world, a chance to see what's going on, and for them to use their collective power to help people, the women inside Sudan, fight for what they want. I think if the entire diaspora puts pressure on the government, on this new government, you know, to, you know, consider women's equality, then it has to be something that they talk about. I think, you know, those girls have fought really hard for what they want, and they have faced a lot of difficulties. So by, you know, publicizing the issues and also creating a broader conversation about, like Raga said, like equality for men and women, even outside of sports, to bring that conversation to the forefront, to have that conversation across the diaspora, I think was a really, that's what I took from it. We had a lot of conversations in my family about, you know, my dad's experience and the experience of his sisters and his brothers, and how it was different, and what he hopes to change, what he hopes to see changed as we go forward. I do think that there's only so, you know, as, you know, women, and, you know, there's only so much they can do from the inside. There's so much that we could do as the communities around the world to help them and to stand with them and to fight for them.
Well, like Maya, I cannot say anything about what was the intent of the film, because you know, I kind of just been introduced to it very, very recently, and actually kind of like a few days ago. But I think it really kind of brought different issues. It has given a great opportunity to people who live in the margin of Sudan, in a situation which is kind of, it's just, you know, I mean, the kind of, just to say difficult is kind of like a very light word for it. And who are facing complex issues, from people who actually lost their status. They happen to be Sudanese and now they're not Sudanese any longer. And they're not South Sudanese, living, you know, some of them, and some who are recognized as Sudanese but living miserable life in the margin. And facing difficult other things. It's not just about football, really. And it's actually kind of put huge emphasis on who are we and who we want to be. That's how I saw it. It's from my perspective as a Sudanese woman, that's how I've seen it. It's brought that questions so strongly to the front. Who are we? Who we want it to be? How are we going to treat those people who are living in the margin, who are lost their status? What are we going to do with our immigration? How are we going to, you know, all these things, all these issues need to be seriously discussed and need to be treated in a humanely way. You know, and it's brought all these things about racism, which is up to the front. The thing that we suffered from generation after generation. It brought the things about the intergenerational trauma up to the surface. It wasn't an easy scene for me. Personally, it wasn't an easy scene because I lived it one time. I've seen it kind of in Sudan, out of Sudan, looking at people who have been displaced out of the country, who are living still in the margin, whether they're in Sudan or in South Sudan. I mean, we traded kind of refugees between our two countries. There is Sudanese who are refugees in South Sudan, South Sudanese are refugees in Sudan. So that's what comes across as well on the films. But at the same time, there is the treatment for the women in general, which is another thing that's for us, as, you know, whether people in the diaspora or people in Sudan, we need to look at, you know, the country that we wanted to live in, to call it home. Are we happy to call that country a home? Do we want it to be like that? How do we want it to see it in the near future? So that's what I actually kind of took out of that. And as I said earlier, I really, really hope that's one time this country will move forward. I mean, the two countries will move forward and help their own people. I mean, we need to see people policy coming up front, not resources, not power. We really need to look at our people. We need to see that suffering. We need to do something about it. You know, I wanted to see a country where people are really rational and humane with one another. And I haven't seen that on the film. I'm sorry, I haven't seen it. It brought a lot of issues back to my mind, and I hope collectively, you know, this is kind of a platform. I hope collectively, if there is Sudanese here hearing, South Sudanese here hearing, collectively, I hope we could actually all work together towards a better Sudan and South Sudan, especially that issues about immigration. I hope that could resolve those issues for those poor women, you know. That suffering is not necessarily really.
Like I just said, like you put us in very good mood to hear all this from you. Things that like every Sudanese should say and every Sudanese should stand up for what you just said, and that's like absolutely amazing. And exactly like the way I also when I was watching the film, one of the ladies, she said that she still wasn't believing that Sudan and South Sudan were like different countries, you know, like and that's the same way. I've been saying like for like a long time ago.
It's a trauma.
Right. Yeah, it is really like I have my running mate. Like we run together at the school, and he's from South Sudan, and I'm from Darfur, and I know like we both been through the same stuff, so the war and all these things that happen in both Sudan, and we all victim for it. And like the way we have seen each other was like, we have seen each other as like as brothers. We never like thought about any of us from any other country. People ask us like, hey, where are you from? And I say like, I'm from South Sudan. And I say, like, for example, when we're together, somebody asks a question like, where are you from? When he says South Sudan, I would say South Sudan. When he say from Sudan, I would say from Sudan. like the things, like it's really, it's unbelievable to think like it's from different country and it's from different country when we all have something in common to fight for our like social justice and for our freedom and to live peacefully and happy, and that's the whole thing that we need. There's a follow-up question from Terry. Excuse me, I mispronounced your name. Do you think the government responds to the pressure from the diaspora outside of Sudan? I don't know if you can see the question, Maya. Do you want to add anything on top of it, or Raja?
Sure. I think, there are, Sudanese, immigrants all over the world who have become really successful in their fields, who are very prominent members of society, who work all over in different corporations, for governments. There's some really powerful Sudanese people in the diaspora. And I think that the government, what SAPA does, they are in conversations with a lot of, government members about different issues that the country faces, and they're listening and wanting to have the conversations and realize that if we're going to create the country, as Raga said, that everybody wants to live in, then you have to take the advice of people who are in the country and people who have left the country to find what they couldn't find, back home. And I think that the government is listening and trying to, bring different perspectives and different voices to create the ideal, the ideal country. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy, and I'm not saying there aren't going to be bumps in the road or disagreements or, taking 2 steps forward and 1 step backward. But I think that, the government would and is responding to pressure from the diaspora outside of Sudan.
Well, I do hope so. I really do hope so. And it's a beautiful country. There are beautiful people. And we got diverse of resources. It's just having to have the will to work together. And that is kind of in an honest way, so that we can all trust each other to move those 2 countries forward. But what we actually missing is the people policy. It was depressing to see the kind of the type of treatment for the women. It's, come on. We are able to welcome other nationality in our countries and treat them well. Can't we just do the same for our brothers and sisters? Why it is that difficult?
Yeah, and also one question that I was meant to ask earlier, but I haven't asked. I would like to ask you now, why it is so important? Why is the sport so important for women, especially in Sudan? Why is it so important?
Well, we are human beings, aren't we? We have the same body. Yes, biological wise, we could be different, but our body needs the same kind of stuff. We need to stay healthy. We need to stay fit. A sport does help, men and women to kind of keep fit. While mentally you can actually be fit. If you are kind of disciplining yourself and your body into the kind of the right of kind of exercise to help you release the tension from your body, for instance. There is kind of a lot of research. I know there is other research that actually can go into other kind of negative things, but there is a lot of values, as I mentioned earlier, that sport can bring into individuals and groups. So women need to live with others, same as men. To be a female doesn't mean that you need to be isolated to survive. You need to kind of have community around yourself. You need to have the health to keep you looking after yourself as an individuals and after your family. And I think, you know, if a man needs to play sport because he thinks it's good, I think it's a woman as well.
Absolutely, completely agree with that. I think for all the reasons that men love to play sports, and men find joy in sports and have, you know, grown and learned about themselves through sports, women get the exact same, and because they love the sport and because they should have the opportunity to enjoy all of the benefits that sports gives, health-wise, emotionally, creating communities. I mean, personally, there's so many life skills that I've been able to translate from sports into my professional career. It builds confidence. You know, physical prowess and physical strength translates into emotional strength and emotional confidence. I think like the merits of sports for people in general are too numerous to count. And why are we denying that to women and girls? Like, if anything, you know, women and girls that come from traumatic situations can benefit greatly from getting an outlet, you know, a productive outlet for, you know, working through like trauma and issues and emotional issues.
Yes, absolutely. I'm completely agree with that. And there's another question. I would like to tell everybody watching us, like, please put the question on the Q&A box, so that would be easy for us to find it. The question was for Raja, what kind of Sudan would you like to live in? And in other words, what is the model of Sudan you want?
Well, I think I did mention that earlier, haven't I? The kind of country that I wanted to live in is a country where it's rational. So the policies is the you know, and everything is kind of rational. That's a country where people can treat each other in a humane way. I wouldn't actually feel okay to live in a country which is a man or a woman treated unequally or unfairly or in non-humane way, or where racism is a common sense, you know, where people not going to be treated with respect or going to be deprived from something because they are this or they are that. So that's the kind of the world I actually, and the country I wanted to live in.
Awesome. And do you have any comment on that? Like, what kind of Sudan would you like you hoping for, and like dreaming of your future generation will see? You can say like, this is the Sudan I'm from.
I mean, I 100% agree with everything that Raga said. That's, I think, what everybody hopes for. Equality and, you know, ending racism, just to really genuinely believe that we are one people, that there's unity, and that everybody's fighting for each other. I really like what you said about, you know, focusing on people policies over policies about resource or business, to really focus on the people of the land, and to give them opportunity to succeed.
Yeah, that's I like the follow-up question. Like, so like, I know right now there's like a new government, and there's like as you all like been mentioning, and like, do you think like for us to live in this in the kind of Sudan you guys describe, is it like too far for us to reach that, or you guys like, what do you think? Are you like satisfied with the like how people right now fighting for the country, or do you think like they're leaving us some like some point behind, like for example like the women's issue, whether it's a sport, which is like the dress code, or like freedom in general?
I'm quite careful about the word revolution thing. you kind of, you know, it's not like taking anything from anybody, but there's been a lingering struggle for people all over Sudan for quite a long time. I mean, not even over the last 30 years, as has been said. This is quite a long struggle. And even the kind of the current situation has brought a lot of other issues and a lot of other pain. I mean, you can actually, you know, there is a lot of kind of things still kind of, we hope that it could have actually brought people together more than actually emphasize other area where people could disagree on. You know, so the kind of policy of not listening to the people continues to be, you know. So the voice of the people are not really getting up to, you know, and that is quite frightening, because if we're looking to a policy which is people-driven policy, then we need to listen to the people. The kind of the way of top-down policy will never take the country forward at all. Ambushing the people who are kind of like, you know, struggling for a long years apart, but just kind of bringing something from up, and you have to follow this. This is not going to solve the problems. I mean, I kind of work with people who are still living the trauma of losing loved one, but at the same time, they are still deprived from their basic need with through policy. How could we actually help this country heal while we are still creating policies which is create more suffering to people? I really hope that I can actually use words that could actually bring more hopes. But I think the only thing I can see is that as long as there is people like you, me, Maya, and other people could actually point out to these things, talk about these things, work with those people, give those people voice, that there is hope that something could change, hopefully. That we could actually make a little shift on the mind state of those people who are creating policies, or those people who are on the other side. You know, it's when I was actually saying the sport could actually help us understand each other, and it's important to bring people together. The thing of Sudan is there is a lot of people in Sudan, they lived in the country, but they don't know the other part of the country. They don't know the country enough to create policy that to help the country move forward. And that's what we are hoping for. We're hoping that people could actually open their heart, open their mind, listen to the other side, so they can actually create something to help the country to heal, to help the country to move forward.
The only thing I'll add is, you know, there's a lot of work to do, and I think to continue to have a, you know, a broader focus and not a Khartoum-centric focus on policy and people, to really integrate, as Raga said, you know, people from all over the country and represent everybody and make sure everybody is represented in the policies that are created for this new government. I think that's the biggest, you know, that's going to be the thing that we're going to all have to keep reminding and forcing the government to do, is to keep all Sudanese in mind, not just, you know, a Khartoum-centric view of Sudan.
I mean, the thing about the revolution, or what they call revolution, you know, when you see the image of the people and you see certain people from certain place all the time on the front, well, I mean, in 10, maybe 5 years' time, the child of today would think actually those are the people who have actually done it, wouldn't they? And at the same time, it's going to widen, only widen, because what you will only do what you see, you know. And it's important that we see the other big people in the pictures, and we bring the concerns of the other peoples in the wider Sudan to kind of create a policy for Sudan.
Thank you for your response. And there's another question been asked. What do you think the new government in Sudan could do to create more opportunities for women in sports, similar to what the US government did with the Title X in the schools?
Yeah, so they're referring to, like, in the early 70s, the US passed like anti-discrimination laws in education, which is basically meant like that girls have equal access to sports.
Mm-hmm.
Well, part of Title IX is that girls have equal access to sports and equal allocation of money for sports in education. And I think, yeah, that's exactly what the government needs. It needs to come from the top of the government, saying that this is a policy that we're going to enact to make sure that there is representation and there is access to funds and access to resources for girls in education. So that's, I mean, Title IX is broader than just sports, but sports was a big part of it. You know, before the 70s, like there was no, like I would have, if I was, you know, going to college in the 70s, there was no women's tennis team that I could have played on. There was no representation for women in, you know, in collegiate professional arenas. So that would, it, you know, it changed, you know, the course of women's sports in the US. And I think that the Sudanese government needs to do the same or something very similar.
Well, I agree. Whatever needs to kind of make things. I mean, for every country, sometimes every country they have their own difficulties sometimes, and this is something need to be looked at. But at the same time, there is initiative, there is a step that every country could actually take to make things possible for the people, and that's what we're not actually asking for too much. We're asking for, really, I personally think that the kind of government needs to kind of look at people in a different way to help release them and help them to kind of be able to do things. I mean, you know, I mean, it's how many child in Sudan is relying on the welfare of the system. You know, the children is still in Sudan, they pay for, you know, their family pay for their education if they're lucky. But there is things that the government could do to kind of allow the people to be able to make these things possible.
Absolutely. And another question is, I'm curious if the families of the women who play sport are supportive of them. What needs to happen to create acceptance and support? Like, as long as your family are like supportive of you, what else you guys need? Like, women in Sudan need to like for acceptance and support.
In our example is to create a safe place, create a safe environment. I mean, where they can actually come and they can play and provide the resources, the equipment, you know, i.e. clothing, you know, the tools, the coaching that they need, and encourage the parents to come and be there as well, while the children are actually learning or practicing those sort of sport. Encourage the family to come together and, you know, and enjoy it. Make it like a family kind of event as well. And so that's for us, was what you know, helped girls to kind of do sport or enjoy sport. Fortunately, that 80% of the refugees in the camp are women and young people. So that's it made that kind of more easy, and the Nuba community as well are kind of more open compared to other kind of community in the countries. I don't mean it kind of in terms of sport, but they kind of they're more acceptable, and they're all welcoming, and we kind of see that people who can live together from different types of religions. So that's helped a little bit. I think that might actually have given us a little advantage with our adventure.
I'll add that I think this is a point where representation in government really helps to drive fair and equal policies for people. You know, it's a very traditional and conservative government, or has been in the past, that doesn't represent all the people of Sudan, and that have a very like narrow view of gender roles, have a very narrow view of, you know, there are things that men do, and there are things that women do, and there are things that men don't do, and there are things that women don't do. That is not necessarily what everybody in Sudan believes. There's lots of people who are much more progressive in terms of letting, you know, not limiting what women can do. I think if those people were represented in the government, there would be more voices in the government to say, you know, sports, why do we consider sports a men's only? What about sports is inherently masculine? There's nothing inherently masculine about sports. And really just recognize the value of sports for people, just people regardless of gender. If we focused on the benefit of sport for people in gender, no one would worry about what it means for men and what it means for women. I think that the benefits of sports, and you know, I mean, we keep, you know, coming back to soccer and sports, but this is kind of true for any issue, right? If you just think about the benefit to all people, period, outside of class, race, ethnic background, gender, what are the benefits for people in general, then you can start to, you know, provide access and equal access to many different resources, including sports.
Completely agree. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like, you know, also on adding on top of that, like as I said earlier, I have sisters, and my whole life I haven't seen, like, I lived in different places, but after we come to America, my sister were able to participate in sports. Also, it wasn't easy for my sister to be in sport. Like not from us, you know, like she was getting 100% support from my family, like my dad, me, my mom, and everybody else was getting 100% support. But like Sudanese community is like really different than like most of the communities. Like for example, if you're a girl and you're playing a sport, your uncle can come and can like say something and whatever they can to stop you from doing it. And even somebody like not like close uncle, but like somebody like related to your family can, you know, they can come and they can say a lot of things about you, and they will, you know, like discourage you, and they will stop you from the sport. And I think that's something that's almost happened to my sister, but also like the family is the most like the supportive of the family. That's the strongest thing that women can get to further their sport or whatever they're doing in the community. Also, another question: are the Sudan women players getting any support from the Women's World Cup Association to further their cause? I think it's Raja, you want to answer that?
It's been mentioned on the film. I'll take the film as authority here. Is FIFA has actually kind of, I think, provided support for the women's, or some kind of support directed to the women's, but they don't deliver. According to the film, that's what happens. I don't really have much kind of connection with that side of the world. I mean, it's especially kind of about the football association in Sudan or something like that. So I have no kind of clue, but it's been mentioned on the films. It's this is what happened.
Yeah, and I don't have much connection to the soccer world either, so I'm not really sure what what level of support they're getting. But yeah, like Raga said, in the film is what I'm taking as fact. So they talk about their relationship with FIFA, but I don't know any more than that.
I see. Moving to the next question is, I hope you guys open your Q&A box so you can see it, because some more my pronunciation is not perfect. Zaki says, I'm not sure if the racism can be eradicated totally from Sudan or anywhere else for that matter. But I agree with you that at least we should be treated as human being, which is difficult to achieve in today's Sudan. So Nuba Mountain self-determination is a way out. Do you agree? I think Raja, would you like to look at that question and tell us what you think?
Right. What? I'm just trying. Right. Is it a question about racism or something? I haven't seen it here. I don't believe that it's kind of like it's something not completely not curable, or the government cannot do anything about it. I think that, the government can do something about it, and it is why we actually kind of use sport as an alternative way to educate the people, to help teach ourselves, help to understand each other, so we can learn to treat each other in a humanly way. The thing is that, yes, racism is not something happened yesterday, and it has historic roots, but that doesn't mean that we cannot uproot it if we really have the will to do so. Why do we have to accept that people to be treated unfairly based on the color of their skins, or the tribe they belong to, or the geographical location they have born in? This could be done through looking at our policy, looking at where our money going to, who gets what and why not. It's easy to do that, if we got the will to do it. I mean, traveling around Sudan, what I've seen myself as a journalist, I actually traveled in South Sudan and in North Sudan. I found North Sudanese everywhere, even in a small village. And I found them, in a powerful. So they are the trader, they are doing business, they are able to go to different places in the country. They are empowered. The local, they don't actually treat them unfairly because they come from North Sudan. So, why we could still see people kind of like refuse to get a job because of the color of their skin, so they cannot have their representative because they haven't got the right to vote, or why we still have those people with the lowest kind of opportunities for education. Is it impossible to kind of make sure that every region of Sudan, whether it is east or north or west, the children could have an opportunity to do better and be better? I don't think that is impossible.
I 100% agree with everything that Raga said, and I I think she said it perfectly. I don't have anything else to add.
Yeah. Also, like, I would like to add a little bit on top of what Raja just said. From my personal experience and from what I've seen from my short time in Sudan, I want to mention that I left Sudan. I was very young. I was 8, but at that time I lived with my grandparents, and I was like kind of, I was everywhere, and I used to sell stuff at the market to buy myself clothes and notebooks and stuff. And like from very young age, I was able to see all these things like happening around me, because I spent like 6 hours in school and like 8 hours at work, and then I just come home and sleep. But what I have like noticed from the southern Sudanese and the northern part is like the South Sudanese people are like really like they understand like everybody's situation, and like for example the northern Sudanese, which is like this, absolutely nothing can make them like better than the other people. There's absolutely nothing can like put anybody like in some type of level and somebody else in other type of level. But like if the whole Sudan have the same or close to the understanding and close to the mindset of the southern Sudanese, I think our country will be in more peace, and it will be in a better situation than we live right now. And the reason I'm saying this is like from all this stuff, from all the dramas and all the war and all this stuff that's been happening to whether it's South Sudan or Darfur or Nuba Mountain, or all these places, and all those victims, they're like they don't like they don't hope for revenge. They don't hope for anything like for violence or anything. All they want is like a peaceful living togetherness, and like to build Sudan, like a better Sudan for the generations to come. Even though they lost peace in their world right now. That's what I gotta say. And this also, there's another question for Raja. Says what do the families of your team think about their involvement?
As I said earlier, we actually managed to achieve something really wonderful. I mean, in the camp, where even mothers could actually come and watch their children playing. So that kind of really is more or less like community events, and it's sort of refreshing to see, really, that everyone could actually see themselves on those kind of environment, and they have something to participate, and they take something out of it. So it's kind of like for diverse age groups. We have young people as younger as 5-6 years old taking part on our sporting activities and educational programs and awareness raising as well, to younger adult 18 years old taking part on helping their youngest brothers and sisters as well. We have the camp manager participating as well. Religious leadership sometimes come and provide talks. We as well invite other NGOs who are in the camp to come and participate in our events, whether it's through raising one of the health issues or other educational things. So while there is still kind of a wide room for us to learn, to do better and improve things. But as I said earlier, we are helping people who are really going through a lot of suffering. I mean, the people we're helping since last September 2019, they've been deprived from food aid. So they rely on whatever they could actually. And they live in a very, very poor situation. So they're not kind of like people who have all the joys of the life, and not every child actually got the chance for to go to school. So some of the children have never actually experienced the school's opportunities. So that's kind of, that's kind of like an environment where they could actually learn skills that schools could have actually provided if there is schools to kind of to do that. We still kind of go through floods, we still go through the droughts, we still go through, outbreaks of malaria, outbreaks of yellow fever, typhoid, diarrhea issues, and it's not easy, but they have the wills to kind of survive. They're survivors. They're fighting to kind of for the right to live, basically, in an environment where the host community are not any better. What can I say? I really, really kind of invite everybody to go and visit Green Kordofan, learn about the stuff that we do, and if there is something that you can learn from us, that's great. But if you can as well support us to do better and help those people, because I really think they deserve it, and they deserve a better future. I don't have the key to kind of make it right for them straight away, but I think if our little effort could actually make a relief or help them to live a moment where they could relieve their anxiety, their worries, and they could be seen and they could have a voice. I'd love to continue doing that.
That's awesome. And I think I will, being almost time to wrap up, I will hand it over to Rose.
Hey, thank you so much. Thank you. It's just been such a wonderful conversation, and just wanted to ask all of you to share, do you have any final remarks on the conversation, or what you see and hope for the future? We can start with Raga, and then Maya, and then Suli can finish.
Well, I'd like to thank you first, Rose, for these brilliant opportunities. And what I hope for the future, I hope we can actually give those young people more voice. And I hope we can actually make their stories as audible as possible. And I hope this is something easy to be achieved in the near future. And please help us to make their living in a refugee camp humane as possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll just echo, thank you, Ruth Ann, and the entire Never Again Coalition for this entire month of events. It's been really eye-opening and really great to see different and learn about different perspectives within our own community. And I'll just say, I hope everybody, and I'm gonna continue to follow, the developments that happen with the women's national soccer team. I think, while it's, while soccer is while this, issue is one small issue that we can tackle, I think the implications for what it represents for the country and for people are huge, and can serve as, a beacon of, progress and hope for a lot of people, and can kind of motivate people and give people the courage to stand up, fight for representation. Yeah, I think it's been, the movie was fantastic, and it's a really important, lots of really important issues were, covered in that movie. And I think we should just continue to, have those conversations and uplift those people and uplift those voices. And I'll definitely continue to follow Green Kordofan and support in any way that I can as well.
Thank you, Maya.
Thank you. And it's really amazing to be with you all. And it's like absolutely, it's, like the change is happening like from a group of people just like us, like me, like Maya, like Raja, like, and everybody else watching this. You guys all contributing to a better future for generations to come, and this is something like everybody should be like really proud of, to be able to help and contribute for a better and peaceful place for everybody. And my hopes and my dreams for Sudan will be a Sudan where women will not be discriminated because of their gender, because of their religion, because of what they believe in. And I think we have suffered enough, we have seen enough, and have gone through a lot of things. And I think it should be this should be the turning point for Sudan, for a better Sudan for everybody. And I can't wait, and I will be like as anybody, any of you, we will work through this, and we'll fight through this together, and we'll make everything possible in Sudan and in anywhere else. And thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you all again so much. It's so inspiring to hear your voices and just know this diversity of perspective and experience that the three of you bring, and just the really powerful things that you are doing for your community. And thank you so much for sharing this time with us and sharing your voices and your perspectives. It's really an honor. We had hoped to have Marwa Zein, the director of Khartoum Offside, in this panel, and were able to correspond with her, but she was not able to join due to her travel schedule. And just for anybody, I know there were a lot of questions about the film, and it's unfortunate that we weren't able to have a more detailed answer, but she did send us a very short update. She said the team is officially recognized and they're able to play, and they still continue to work on their aim of creating the women's national team for Sudan. So, you know, the film did end on a little bit of a sad note after watching them fight. I think there's the natural impulse to just want to see them succeed, but these women are incredibly strong and persistent, and so I hope that we will all see them in the near future achieve their goal and see a Sudan national women's team on the international stage, because clearly that needs to happen. Again, this is our final event, and we've just had a series of amazing conversations and heard from so many with just so much insight and so much deep knowledge about this beautiful country of Sudan. And so if any of you who are watching this live or recorded, if you've missed our past discussions, they are going to remain available on our website, neveragaincoalition.org/rising-up/Sudan, and they will live there on the internet, so you can revisit them at any time. We also have information about our current work, which is revitalizing the Sudan Caucus in the US Congress. We are also supporting the Youth, Peace, and Security Act and the Sudan Democratic Transition Accountability and Financial Transparency Act of 2020. And you can find information about all of those things at neveragaincoalition.org/Sudan-action. Of course, we really encourage you to follow and visit Green Kordofan and learn more about the amazing work that Raga is doing in Yida camp in South Sudan, and please support them. You can also find out more about Darfur United. Links to both of those organizations are on our series page as well. And if you value this program, you also can donate to the Rising Up for Human Dignity series on our series website. Finally, I just want to thank all of our partners and co-presenters, the many other organizations who are also supporting this work and elevating these voices of activists, artists, athletes from Sudan and the diaspora. They include not only Never Again Coalition, but also Amnesty International USA Group 48, Portland State University's Holocaust and Genocide Studies Project, Portland State University's Conflict Resolution Department, Portland State University's Middle East Studies Center, World Oregon, STAND, Sudan Unlimited, Act for Sudan, the Sudanese-American Public Affairs Association, or SAPA, iACT, Cool Islam, Cascade Festival of African Films, and the Oregon Jewish Museum and Center for Holocaust Education. And I'd like to especially thank Amber Person from the Oregon Jewish Museum for being our tech genius for this entire series. and helping to make all of this happen. Thank you again so much to all of you for joining us. And we wish you well. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye-bye.